Welcome to Disability News and Views. It's July, and that means it is Disability Pride Month. 34 years ago, on a hot, blistering day in July, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed and became law. This landmark civil rights legislation prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability. 34 years later, so many more people are embracing disability for what it is, part of the human experience. And here in the city of Boston, we're making sure that all programs and services are accessible to the almost 80,000 residents that are disabled. The theme of this month's show, in addition to Disability Pride, is embracing technology. Later in the show, you're going to hear from Aleha from our Department of Innovation and Technology, talk with our Chief of Staff, Andrea Patton, about some of the projects we are doing to make sure that digital accessibility and equity is realized in the city. But right now, I'm going to kick it over to our co-host, Ken Meyer, who's going to talk with community member Adriana Malosi about her experience with technology and disability pride. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it to Ken. Ken, take it away.
You bet. Thank you, Colleen. Let's start by getting a little background about you, young lady, and your organization. I know it involves equipment parts for people with disabilities, but tell us about your background and how this organization got started.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Adriana Malazzi. I'm a white woman with ear-length dark hair with some silvers in it. I'm in a power wheelchair and I'm wearing a sort of goldish, like gold shirt. I have been involved in the disability rights and justice movement for many years. As someone with a disability who uses a powered wheelchair, I have firsthand experience with the challenges faced by the disability community. And my journey basically began with advocating for my own needs and quickly expanded to helping others, driven by my passion for equity and accessibility, as well as my passion for technology. I've always been a techie. I love technology. I use technology in my everyday life. I have an assistive tech startup as well. So when this opportunity presented itself, as the founder and former CEO of Requipment Inc. So I am the current CEO of Requipment Inc. And when this opportunity presented itself, I was like, wow, what a great opportunity for me to really use my experience, both my lived experience as well as my professional experience. And what a perfect fit, and my love for technology. So let me give you a little bit information about Requipment Inc. So Requipment Inc. was founded by Karen Langley, a longtime advocate, and worked for MRC and EOHHS. She started it about 10 years ago to fulfill a need in the disability community where wheelchair users were, waiting months on end to get simple repairs or parts replaced. And so what Requipment does is we take gently used equipment such as wheelchairs. We now also take assistive technology. We refurbish those items and clean them up, and we redistribute them at no cost to people with disabilities, including children, veterans, and older adults. And since our inception, we've provided over 11,500 pieces of equipment valued at over $19 million, and have last year alone have kept about 45 tons of solid waste out of landfills. So that is what we do.
Are you the only person there, or do you have a staff?
No, we have a team. So we are a team of 10, and as well as community partners. So we have partners with DDS, with Stavros, and UCP of Western Mass, along with smaller satellite locations or drop-off locations throughout the state. And we serve the entire state of Massachusetts. All you have to do is contact us. We do not need proof of disability. We do not need a letter from a doctor. We don't need any medical history. Yeah, it's all about the need. We take you at your word, and we give you the equipment that you need for free. And that is it. No questions asked, basically.
Okay. What if any are problems that people that are disabled face in getting this equipment? Are there any?
So, in general, with getting equipment in general, not necessarily through us, which is why we exist. In general, high cost, lengthy insurance approval processes, and lack of available resources are really the main issues that many people with disabilities face, not just here in Massachusetts, but across the country. And, as well as delayed repairs. I mean, people might wait 6 months or longer for their chair to get fixed, and then they can't participate in their communities. They can't go to work. It leads to other health issues if you are stuck in bed and not able to move. So it impacts mobility, independence, and overall quality of life. So this is the need that we are filling with our service.
Okay, if someone is using a wheelchair and has problems, are there loaner chairs that can be lent out to these people so that it will take 6 months to survive?
Yeah, we do not loan. We give you the chair, and it is yours. And if you no longer need that chair, you can donate it right back to us. But it is yours. Whatever we give you, it is not on loan. It is yours to keep.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the assistive technology features and how that works with your organization.
So we have partnered with UCP, and they handle the assistive tech portion of that. And so we have a database on our website that you can go to, requipmentma.org. And if you go to that website, you will see items that are available, and they change daily, and even throughout the day, the items change as we get new items donated, as we put them up on the website. So check our website often. And there are things such as screen readers, magnifiers, sockets. There are all sorts of items that you can get for activities of daily living, etc. So those are the type of devices, some of the types of devices that we have available other than wheelchairs and rollators, and also bathing, shower or commode type shower chairs.
Is
Um,
there training involved? Do people come out and work with the disabled person on how to work with assistive technology?
So, there is no actual training. There are, you may get some sort of instructions that may come with the device, but we do not, um, come to your home and train you on how to use the device. Um, there are many resources online, that explain how to use the devices that we offer. Again, we cover the entire state, and we only have 3 delivery drivers. So 3 delivery drivers are covering the entire state of Massachusetts right now. um, so yes.
So if somebody calls in with something, it may take quite a while before it's picked up.
Yeah, so if someone puts in a request, they call in with the request, they will get, the person who answers the phone will take down their information. They will then be sent a liability form, basically stating that you will be getting this piece of equipment. You will, you're getting this equipment as is. You're not liable for repairing it once you receive it. And you are not going to go and sell it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And then once we receive that signed document, then it could take 2 to 4 weeks to receive the equipment. It could be sooner depending on where you are and how many people are already assigned in that area to receive equipment. We also have officially started shipping assistive tech. So if you are getting a piece of assistive tech, and only assistive tech and not a wheelchair, we can ship that to you. But if you are getting a wheelchair and other equipment such as assistive tech, it can all be delivered together. So you can request more than one piece of equipment at a time. You can request a wheelchair and other assistive tech if you need, and it can all be delivered together. There is no limit to what you can get. Of course, there's a limit that you can only get one wheelchair at a time for about 12 months, per year. But you can request multiple devices at once.
All right. Why don't you give the website, and you did mention a phone number. Why don't you give that as well?
So you can visit us at dmereuse.org, and that'll take you to our equipment page, which will have a link to resources as well as the donation page. So if you want to donate equipment,
And do you have a phone number?
so you can give us a call at 1-800-261-9841, and one of our staff members will answer, and they'll answer any questions as well. So if you're just calling and you don't know what you can get, or you have some questions about the process, so our staff are happy to answer those questions.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I wish you good luck in your project with your organization. And I'm hoping that people will be watching this and decide if they need something, they can give you a call.
Great.
So
Thank you so much for having me.
thank you for being here. And now we'll turn it over to Andrea Patton, our Deputy Commissioner, with another special, interesting guest.
Thanks, Ken. What a great conversation. It was awesome to learn so much about reequipment. But yes, now we're turning over to our departmental conversation about not just the IT department, but the DoIT department with Aleha. So please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your work and what is DoIT.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Andrea. So DoIT is the place that I work. My name is Aleha. I'm the Director of Tech Governance and Policy. I'll talk a bit about my work after talking about DoIT as a whole. So DoIT stands for Department of Innovation and Technology. Usually IT is information technology, but we think we're fancy, so we do innovation and technology. And it is sort of the central technical backbone to a lot of city departments. We provide really core foundational services like network infrastructure, Wi-Fi, managing hardware like laptops and monitors and stuff, to some of the more constituent-facing experiences like design and consulting on digital interfaces and experiences, developing new pilots around using AI, for example, to help with optimizing traffic flows or climate resilience modeling. So lots of different stuff happening around technology sort of centralized within DoIT. My particular role is pretty new. Like I mentioned, the Director of Technology Governance and Policy, and that role is kind of breakdown into two big pieces. The first is governance, which is broadly the processes and structures we have for decision making about technology. And the policy piece is implementing what we decide on. So take an example, the governance piece might be around the specific tools we will or won't use to address a particular need. Let's say that we want to make it easy for folks to scan QR codes to sign up for events. The governance piece is figuring out what system are we using, who is paying for it, how is it going to be set up, what are the rules of the road in terms of ensuring that we have consistent experiences for constituents that are of high quality and accessible. And the policy piece is the set of written artifacts, training, procedures, other guidance for employees to help ensure that what we decide on is what we're going to do becomes the actual practice for the city. So that is the high level of what I do within DoIT.
Wow, that is a lot. And yeah, there's the internal facing piece, right? Helping me here in City Hall have a computer to do my job. But there's also, it sounds like, some public facing stuff that you do. You mentioned the QR project. So what are some of the other ways that the public might experience those governance pieces, those policy pieces that you're talking about, other than obviously making sure it's easier for folks to sign up and come to our events with the QR codes? But what are some of the other ways people in the public might experience tech governance and policy?
That is a great question. So there's different types of flavors of this. One piece is around kind of transparency and clarity. The Surveillance Oversight Ordinance for the City of Boston is one example, which is an exercise in helping to document how city departments use surveillance technology and then have a regular annual process to evaluate the efficacy of those technologies. So high level sort of evaluation and transparency pieces. There is sort of broadly a really hidden cost savings piece. Part of my work entails getting many different departments and actors who use different tools to achieve the same thing, either using the same tool or using them in a harmonized way. This is really core back office work that I think people will not always see, but they will see it in terms of more effectively spent taxpayer funds to fund fewer tools that we can support more effectively for our frontline staff who are oftentimes delivering programs, running services, in front of the kiosk, helping you fill out forms and things like that. The policy practice is still a bit newer, and I think I've been sort of more on the tech governance piece recently, but the policy piece is emerging to ensure that I'm also developing connections to state and federal representatives around, trending topics like AI, for example, and help sort of build out the process I have for helping to ensure that the goals of the administration are supported by tech policy changes at the federal and state level.
That is a lot. Yeah, we tell people sometimes they won't see our work. Hopefully, people don't ever need to call our office because they'll just go to the library and it'll be accessible and they won't need to talk to us. And it sounds like similarly, people might not ever see directly the work that you're doing, but they'll see it in a smooth interface, a smooth sign-up experience, a smooth hopefully you don't ever get a parking ticket, but a smooth experience of paying parking tickets online. You're helping make sure those things are smooth and effective and efficient for folks, which is great. We also know that you do access work, right? Not all the access work is happening in our department. And so, as folks have heard, we've announced in our newsletter and other places, but if you haven't heard yet, as you're watching this show, we're honoring Do It this year at our ADA Day. We have an annual celebration on City Hall Plaza, July 17th this year, and we're honoring you all in part because of your disability data standards work, as well as ongoing efforts to update policies that have to do with digital access. So can you tell us more about those two projects and what's going on with those projects?
Yeah, so the disability data standard was one of the first things I got started on when I first got here, and it's been just a wonderful project to get to work with the Disabilities Commission and also our constituents. So we were taking a page out of sort of the playbook we developed for the gender aware guidelines. If folks are unclear about those, just Google Boston gender aware guidelines. And it broadly is a high level set of ways that we expect folks to collect data and serve residents when it comes to gender. Now, obviously, gender and disability are two very different dimensions of identity, but the processes for working with constituents to understand what they want to see and what they need from City of Boston was very, very similar. So as part of this project, we developed some research protocols to better understand the experiences that residents with disabilities have with the City of Boston, both in terms of day-to-day, just the experience you have when you're going to City Hall to get something filled out, for example, or trying to access something online, but also specifically how you're asked about what you need and the disabilities that you may have. So we worked to develop kind of a protocol that allowed us to have a series of 75-minute conversations with constituents to ask about their experiences and spend some time after that kind of reviewing the findings. We were careful to ensure that we recruited a diverse set of people in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, disabilities that they may hold, to ensure that we're getting a lot of different types of feedback from people who are best positioned to inform how we're thinking about disability. So after those focus groups, we looked for sort of all the findings that kept emerging across focus groups. We had a lot of really animated, wonderful participants, and to see things that kept cropping up as the same issue across different conversations was, oh, there's something here that we should be responding to or embedding into how we're operating. And that led to actually the standard. And I think one of the biggest parts of the standard, most valuable parts, was actually a decision made by the Disabilities Commission to focus more on collecting data about typical accommodation needs rather than disability identity, or the specific disability someone may hold. For one thing, we are avoiding, I think, being too invasive around health or medical conditions or just general personal privacy issues. We're asking more about what do you need typically to receive this service or to participate in this event or program. So it does focus much more on like, what do we need to provide to ensure you can access whatever we are giving you as a government. One thing that we are being clear on is that this is a data collection tool. So it's not necessarily saying, unfortunately, at this time that we'll be able to provide every accommodation on that list for every event or service. We want to get there. We will get there eventually. But in the meantime, it gives clarity to the way that we want employees to think about access and accessibility, and sort of starts to give the initial model for when thinking about what it requires to make the program accessible. Here's a rough checklist. We're developing more data around who is needing these accommodations so we can fund them, so we can fund these things more consistently in a way that matches who actually needs these things in the community. So it's been a truly wonderful project to work on. I want to also shout out Commissioner Kristen McCosh. She's been just a wonderful leader of this project, and just her direction, her guidance, her support has just been a tremendous resource for us while working on this.
Well, I know she appreciates that. Thanks. And I do too. And yeah, it's been a really fun project to work with you all on because we can bring that lens of understanding the medical model versus the social model, right? We don't need to know medical information about folks' disabilities in order to make an event accessible to them. And while we certainly want to respect social identities that people have, what's really important is that understanding the way we're setting up events, the way we're setting up programs, the way we're setting up policies meet the accommodations people have. One of the things we hear so much from folks with disabilities is, my disability doesn't limit what I'm able to do. Your lack of planning for it limits what I'm able to do. And so we were able to bring that perspective to the project and understanding what was coming from the constituents we were talking to and do it. And you have been really helpful in helping us understand, well, what does that mean for setting a policy? What does that mean for directing other departments to collect data? And how are we going to be able to use that data again, with your support, to understand what we're really collecting here. So just want to second and reflect back on you that thanks and all of your work has been really, really helpful. As we're approaching the end of one project, we're approaching sort of the beginning of the other one, and having a more general policy when it comes to digital access. So I know that one's sort of still in the beginning stages and less directly, just you and a lot of other people are involved. But can you tell us a little bit about what it means to have a digital accessibility policy? What does that work look like?
Absolutely. So I have the privilege of reporting directly to Julia Gutierrez, who's the city's chief digital officer, and she is working to ensure that accessibility is a central part of all the work that we do broadly. And part of that is ensuring that we have really clear foundational standards around the digital experiences that we are designing and developing for constituents. This includes both things that we are building in-house, things as simple as a form for folks to fill out, as well as sort of more involved things that may involve us procuring technology from a vendor outside the city to build and run a service for residents. So pieces of that are ensuring that all of the all of the digital tools, experiences that we develop are adherent to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG 2.1 Level AA. I think that's the whole name of it. And just really setting a floor on what residents and students can expect from a digital experience with the city of Boston. That's the thinking around sort of like the strategy, intention, and goal. There is a separate piece around the actual practice of ensuring that departments have the resources they need to implement those standards. No one likes unfunded mandates, and our public servants do work very hard. We want them to ensure they can add this new way of working or doing things into what they're already delivering to constituents, but we just want to make sure that we are making it easy for these standards to be actually followed. So for example, in the case of procurement, where someone's kind of like going out and get something from a vendor outside City Hall, having a really explicit list of the things this technology must be able to do or show, so that a public servant isn't having to sort of go through their own checklist of accessibility, so that we can provide this in good faith, knowing that, okay, this will meet the needs that we have established we're going to meet with our technology standards. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I know it's a really technical topic, but I think it's a great example of what viewers of this show know we're always working towards, which is systemic access. To your last point, like not every single person in the city is going to understand WCAG 2.0 AA, whatever it is. How can we put the tools, in the hands, in the procurement policies so that access is considered anytime we're buying something, without you and I needing to have a conversation with every single person who buys software or buys hardware, technological hardware. Let's make sure it's accessible by just baking that into the process. And that's, again, as viewers of this show know, what we're always trying to do is like bake that thought process in from the beginning, so that residents, viewers of the show, can feel confident that when they're interacting with the City of Boston technology tool, it's going to be accessible to them. So makes sense to me, and hopefully it does to our constituents, but obviously they can call us with questions. So then really, the last question that I want to ask is, are there any other programs that Do It runs that you would want people watching this show to be aware of?
I always go back and forth on the value of being a typically quote unquote back office department, like finance, technology. You sort of see it sort of like a back office function. Technology has very much become a mediator for a lot of government services, an enabler for a lot of government services as well. So I think I always kind of am figuring out like, is it good to talk about the things that Do It can support for departments to do and deliver when we're sort of like the man behind the curtain, so to speak? One thing I can shout about that I'm very excited about is broadly the digital equity vertical. One of the teams within Do It, who's led by our city's chief digital equity officer, Brian Donahue, and his role is advancing digital equity writ large. The model for the city of Boston is a trinity. It's ensuring that folks have connectivity, right? The pipes, the Wi-Fi is turned on and running to your house at an affordable rate, that you have a relevant device, tablet, smartphone, laptop, et cetera, to navigate the internet with, and that you have the relevant skills. The central part of this program more recently was ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's unfortunately funding has been cut for that more quickly than we expected, and we're working to actually working to advocate for the federal government to continue funding this particular program. But I think that's probably the one that would be most directly felt by residents of Boston. This is do it out and about, at community centers, fairs, advertising cheaper internet, advertising device refurbishment, whereby the city sort of seeks to take older technology that's end of its life for government service, but still can be used to like answer email and browse the internet, refurbishes those things, and then gives them away to constituents in the city. Digital equity is probably, I think, the arm folks would most feel after the digital service, which is all the digital screens and devices that folks are navigating to access City of Boston services. So those two big ones, I think, are the ones to keep an eye out for.
That's really good to know. Yeah, it's not just sort of classic IT fixing printers, although that is absolutely critical work to make sure the city can do what it's doing. It's also that innovation piece, right? And a lot of folks with disabilities may know about legacy programs for affordable cell phones, for example, and affordable landlines that came out. It's great to know that there's thought from the feds, from the state, from us about, that next thing, which is affordable internet. So that's really great to know. Thank you for saying that. This has been a really great conversation. There's so much that Do It is doing, that you're doing, that I think is really important for our residents. And hopefully folks will learn more at ADA Day, where again, we'll be honoring you, Do It generally, but you specifically a little bit, and Julia as well. What are you most excited about for ADA Day when you're out there on the plaza with us?
Oh man, so the new Civic Plaza, I go back and forth on it because sometimes it's like super empty and almost feels a little bit dead. But that openness, I think, offers a lot of flexibility for designing experiences and layouts that can like allow a lot of different sorts of activities. So I'm very curious to see how we use that open space design to be a bit more navigable, a bit more accessible, and just like make the space, fill the space up with things that can attract people and that just get folks like together. I always sort of love seeing the empty Civic Plaza turn into something almost overnight, literally. It's always a joy for me personally.
We love doing that as well. We love bringing tons of disabled folks together to be in celebration, in community, to learn out about cool resources like the ones we've mentioned. So I think you'll have a great time coming out and celebrating with us on the 17th. So thank you for everything that you do. This has been another episode of Disability News and Views. The July episode, we're very excited to be able to talk about tech, digital tech, accessibility tech, things that are out there to make sure our world is that much more accessible and connected. So thank you, Aleha. Thank you earlier, Ken and Adriana, for your conversation. And we will see you all next month right here at Disability News and Views. Bye, everyone.